You enter a medieval city and instantly regret your first breath. Mud, manure, rotting meat, and dirty water are everywhere. The smell comes from every direction, and there is nowhere to escape. But the strangest part is this: the people living here barely notice it. Horse traffic fills the road with manure. Markets mix fish, meat, scraps, flies, and crowds. Dirty water runs through open gutters. Animals and people share the same cramped street. Different smells hit from every direction. The visitor wants to escape while locals keep walking. The worst smell is still ahead. Rain spreads street filth through the neighborhood. Public latrines manage waste but smell awful. Workshops add powerful industrial odors. Fresh bread sits beside a foul gutter. The tannery can smell worse than the toilet. A crowded market concentrated dozens of strong smells into one narrow lane. Fresh meat became a problem quickly. Without modern refrigeration, fish smelled even stronger after sitting through a warm afternoon. Summer heat made every market odor rise faster and hit harder. Rain did not magically wash the medieval street clean. Instead, overflowing gutters can turn the street into a moving dirty stream. Boots and cartwheels then splashed that dirty water everywhere. One storm can carry street waste across an entire neighborhood. Stables often stood surprisingly close to houses and shops. That meant piles of manure can sit only steps from someone's doorway. Cows, geese, chickens, and horses regularly moved through busy streets. Homes, transport, livestock, and business all shared the same air. The unpleasant smells did not stop when you went indoors. Small rooms trapped cooking smoke, dampness, and body odor. A chamber pot can remain inside until someone carried it away. Even a private bedroom can feel heavy by modern standards. Medieval people did wash, despite the popular myth that they never did. Public bathhouses gave many townspeople a real place to clean themselves. The problem was never simply that people did not care about hygiene. Modern showers just make daily washing far easier and more reliable. Keeping drinking water clean can be difficult in a crowded town. Busy public wells served many households, animals, and travelers every day. Dirty wash water often ended up back outside near the street. Clean water and dirty water can exist dangerously close together. Butchers created another concentrated zone of blood, scraps, and strong odors. Fish heads, scales, and wet boards became unpleasant very quickly. Flies gathered wherever food scraps and waste stayed exposed. A medieval market can attack your nose from several directions at once. Public toilets were one of the most obvious sources of smell. Some towns built communal latrines to keep waste in one place. That system was practical, but the pit below still collected everything. A useful medieval toilet was still a very smelly toilet. For many families, the household toilet was simply a chamber pot. Someone then had to carry that waste outside by hand. Emptying the pot only moved the smell to a different place. Without plumbing, nearly every sanitation step happened in plain sight. Some towns employed workers to remove waste after dark. Their job was filthy, difficult, and absolutely necessary. These workers quietly made crowded cities more livable. Medieval towns did clean themselves, but only with crude tools. Many houses stored waste in cesspits near the home. When a cesspit filled, someone had to empty it manually. Until then, the smell stayed very close to the family. The toilet might be outside, but the pit can still touch your wall. Even castles had to solve the same basic sanitation problem. A garderobe often sent waste straight through the castle wall. That solution was practical, but nobody call it pleasant. Wealth can move the smell farther away without truly eliminating it. Some of the worst city odors came from industry rather than toilets. Tanneries became notorious for how strongly they can smell. Making leather required soaking and scraping hides in foul working conditions. A tannery can smell worse than the street gutter beside it. Dyers and other crafts added still more odors to the neighborhood. Brewing, cooking, and craft work filled cramped yards with steam and smell. Blacksmith smoke added another heavy layer to already dirty air. A medieval city was simultaneously a neighborhood, market, stable, and factory. Even churches had their own mixture of bodies, smoke, wax, and incense. Incense can cover unpleasant odors for a while. Crowded worshippers and poor ventilation still made the air feel heavy. Pleasant incense and unpleasant body odors can fill the same room. Graveyards often stood surprisingly close to houses and busy streets. People were buried near the same churches where communities gathered. That did not mean graves constantly poisoned the surrounding city. It did mean death remained physically close to everyday urban life. Hospitals and almshouses added sickness to the city's mixture of smells. Herbs and smoke were often used to make sick rooms smell safer. Many people believed foul air itself can carry disease. For them, a bad smell can feel like a genuine warning. Crowded inns can become especially stuffy after a long night. Taverns mix spilled ale, cooking, smoke, mud, and packed bodies. Rushes or straw often covered floors beneath muddy boots. Fresh straw can hide old dirt without truly removing it. Morning streets often still carried the mess left from the previous day. Many towns organized workers to scrape and sweep the streets. Small carts then carried away whatever waste workers can collect. People fought the dirt constantly, but the city produced more every day. Open public squares can smell better than cramped alleys. More open space allowed wind to disperse odors more easily. Narrow, overhanging streets trapped bad air between the houses. The shape of a street can completely change how the smell behaved. Rivers kept cities alive while also carrying away urban pollution. The same river might be used for washing, work, transport, and water, and different household and industrial activities often met along the same waterway. Pollution upstream can become someone else's problem farther downstream. Some canals carried foul smells straight through the center of town. Crossing a dirty bridge can become an instant test for your nose. Even medieval locals reacted when a particular spot became truly awful. Smell can drift through a city far beyond its original source. Of course, medieval cities also produced plenty of pleasant smells. Fresh bread from a bakery must have been an incredible relief. Herbs like rosemary, lavender, and mint offered another pleasant contrast. A good smell probably made the nearby bad ones feel even stronger. Wealthy people sometimes carried scented objects to mask the street air. Herbs, perfumes, and scented bundles became portable protection for the nose. Apothecaries sold aromatic mixtures to people seeking cleaner smelling air. It was a simple way to carry a better smell through town. Rich and poor residents did not experience the same city equally. Wealthier streets can be roomier, cleaner, and better maintained. Servants and money can keep waste farther from a wealthy doorway. Still, rich families lived inside the same larger urban environment. Many homes stood directly beside stables, workshops, or animal yards. A manure heap can sit only a few steps from the front door. Residents grew used to smells that overwhelm many modern visitors. Home, work, animals, and waste often shared the same tiny plot. Summer was usually the most punishing season for urban smells. Heat made rotting fruit and vegetables decay even faster. Fish scraps became especially powerful under the afternoon sun. A hot medieval alley can be brutal on the nose. Cold winter weather can reduce some odors without removing the dirt. Frozen waste was still waste even when it smelled less. Spring thaw turned frozen street filth back into wet sludge. The sanitation problem never disappeared because each season only changed it. Now, doctors often used aromatic herbs because foul air was considered dangerous. People imagined disease traveling through dark clouds of poisonous smelling air. Families burned or hung fragrant herbs to defend their homes. Their science was incomplete, but the fear of foul air made sense. Now compare that medieval street with a clean modern one. Modern garbage collection removes waste before it can sit for long. Underground pipes separate clean water from sewage beneath our feet. Most modern cleanliness depends on systems we barely notice. A covered modern drain hides what an open medieval gutter exposed. A flush toilet removes waste instantly instead of storing it nearby. Modern zoning also separates many homes from livestock and heavy industry. Those hidden systems completely change what a city smells like. A modern visitor might feel overwhelmed almost immediately in this alley. A local can walk through the same place without thinking about it. Families learn to eat, work, and relax inside the smells around them. Your nose adapts to whatever environment becomes normal. Dense city walls forced huge numbers of people into limited space. Overhanging upper floors made some streets even narrower below. Crowds left very little room for waste to stay far away. Medieval cities were built long before modern sanitation engineering existed. Town authorities did create rules about dumping and street cleaning. Residents were sometimes ordered to carry refuse to designated dumping areas. Organized sweeping can make certain streets noticeably cleaner, but rules alone can never replace a sewer network. Stored food created another set of strong but necessary smells. Salted fish and brined goods can smell powerful even when perfectly edible. Cheese cellars and damp storerooms added their own heavy aromas. A medieval city constantly surrounded people with intense sensory experiences. Then there was smoke pouring from dozens of chimneys. Cooking fires filled small homes with haze that clung to clothing. Forges added even more smoke to the same neighborhood air. Not every strong smell was rotten, but the air can still feel thick. Wool and leather were essential products made through messy processes. Dirty rinse water flowed away from textile and hide work. Fresh cloth dried above the same muddy streets where people walked. Useful goods often came from processes that smelled terrible. Cities tried to push large waste dumps outside their walls. Moving refuse beyond the busiest streets definitely helped. But wind can carry the smell straight back toward the gate. As cities expanded, yesterday's outskirts became tomorrow's neighborhoods. Flowing water can remove waste while also connecting polluted areas. One workshop's runoff can become another household's downstream problem. Floating debris made the city's pollution visible along the riverbank. Water explains why sanitation eventually became a citywide engineering problem. To a modern visitor, this environment can feel almost impossible. To a medieval child, the same street was simply home. That difference in perspective changes how we should judge the past. Despite the smell, the city still traded, worked, prayed, and survived. So the popular image of people doing absolutely nothing about dirt is wrong. Residents washed, streets were swept, and waste workers did real sanitation work. Open drains, animals, and workshops simply overwhelmed those limited systems. The problem was not effort, but the technology available to them. Manure, markets, gutters, tanneries, and crowds all added their own odors. Human waste was important, but it was only one part of the problem. Smoke, animals, industry, food, weather, and density completed the mixture. Everything that kept the city alive also contributed to the air people breathed. Modern and medieval cities differ most in where their waste goes. Sewers, plumbing, garbage collection, and zoning transformed urban life. A modern visitor complained long before a local even noticed. For the people living there, these smells were simply part of home. Workers carried goods through streets filled with smoke, animals, and open drains. Craftsmen kept hammering while street odors drifted straight into their shops. Food sellers served customers despite the heavy air around the market. Daily work continued because stopping for the smell was never an option. By sunset, fewer people remained outside, but the odors did not disappear. The narrator walks through a city that has finally begun to quiet down. Our modern visitor takes one last breath and still looks completely defeated. From a distance, the evening skyline looks peaceful and almost beautiful. Morning delivery carts brought fresh activity back into the narrow streets. Merchants opened their stalls while sweepers cleaned around them. Residents simply stepped around whatever dirt remained from yesterday. For locals, this messy rhythm was just another normal morning. Laborers moved through the same gutters, smoke, and animals every day. Craft workers spent long hours with street air drifting into their workshops. Food sellers learned to trade inside conditions we find overwhelming. The city kept functioning because everyone adapted to its environment. As evening returned, smoke settled slowly above the rooftops. The narrator moves through quieter streets that still carry the day's smells. The modern visitor remains shocked by what locals barely notice. The hazy skyline hides how intense the streets feel up close. At dawn, carts and workers filled the lanes all over again. Cleaning and commerce started together before the city was fully awake. People walked around yesterday's leftovers without stopping their routine. This constant cycle made the smell feel ordinary to those who lived there. Workers carried heavy loads through an environment full of mixed urban odors. Shopkeepers and craftsmen cannot escape the street air outside. Market customers still bought food while animals and carts passed nearby. Life continued because the city had no clean alternative yet. At sunset, the streets calmed, but the underlying smells remained. The narrator crosses the same alleys after another full day of activity. Our visitor looks relieved that his trip through the city is almost over. The evening haze makes the city look gentler than it really smells. The next morning, delivery carts restart the same cycle from the beginning. Merchants open while cleaners try to erase yesterday's mess. Residents navigate the remaining dirt as naturally as we avoid a puddle. For them, this was not a historical nightmare, but ordinary urban life. Manure, fish, gutters, smoke, and leather all combine into one final picture. Drop a modern person into that street and the reaction is immediate. Our noses are trained by the environment we experience every day. A medieval resident walks through the same alley without a second thought. Adaptation can turn an unbearable smell into ordinary background noise. Comparing both worlds shows how much urban life has changed. Modern streets feel cleaner because waste is quickly hidden and removed. Pipes beneath the street separate drinking water from sewage and dirty runoff. From far away, the medieval skyline can look beautiful at sunset. Sanitation may be one of the greatest invisible inventions in human history. You can probably survive this city, but your nose hate every minute. And next, medieval medicine may make the city's smell seem like the easy part.